Can you hear me?
We're live.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. I thought I was actually talking to
Hello. Don't
people,
don't
but I'm
swear. We're
not.
live. Hello.
Hello, Ruth, Kerry. Hello, 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 hello,
Can you hear me,
hello.
Robbie?
I can hear you fine, mate. Can you hear me?
Hello, internet. Hello, internet. We seem to not be able to hear anything at all. Ah, that's
We
because I
can.
have my speakers turned off. Robbie,
We.
hello.
Neil, hello, mate. We can hear you. We can hear you. It's all fine. It's all
Hello.
fine.
Hello,
I didn't
everybody.
realise.
Hello, world, and welcome. Or did you not realise?
I didn't realise that there wasn't people. It said scheduled, but I was sitting there talking away like Neil isn't here, so ask me questions, and there's nobody there. I was like talking to myself
There
for
was
like
the
3 or 4 minutes
Robbie
while you weren't
Robbie
here.
was talking, but nobody was listening. However, now the world
Mm?
can hear us. I've been having a few last
Hello,
minute issues, should we say? Yeah. We can. I can hear you, Robbie. I
I
just
can't
can't
hear you,
see
Neil.
you.
I think I've
We've
lost you,
we've
mate.
had a few last minute technical issues today with cameras not working
Neil,
and all
Neil,
kinds of stuff.
I
Yeah,
lost you
Robbie, I can
then.
hear you. The world can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I lost you then again, but we're back. We're back. Are we good?
Okay, good.
Cool. And look at this. Look. Hi, Robbie. Nice to see you. Everything. We have a clear screen. Go me. Doing this on my phone. Hello. I think I'm losing you here, Neil. I think we're losing Neil here, guys.
He's
He's
back.
back. Neil, what?
Yes.
Neil, I
He is
thought you
back.
were.
Sorry about that.
I
We've
thought
we've
you.
been having a world of issues today. So when Kerry says this, rah, what she means is we're actually doing terribly.
Yeah.
Robbie, how are you? All I've
Yes,
got is a black
I'm.
screen now from you. Let me try
It's
that. Let
back
me
now.
bring him back in again. No. So anyway, good afternoon, internet world. Welcome to episode 3 of the Neil and Robbie live shows. As you can see, we are still nowhere near professional at this. We haven't got a clue what we're doing. I've been running around trying to teach kids French and then making a cup of tea and just generally not getting my life in order. So, as Kerry would say, we are such dads. Yeah, dad
Yes.
technology. showing
Yeah.
my age now. Anyway,
Hugely.
hello again, Robbie. It's been all of what 2-3 hours since we last spoke.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Tell
we
us
were
about this.
so
Tell us about this morning.
we went up out to Zwift, tour of Fire and Ice on Zwift, and it was a lot of fun actually. So I don't really, in general, I don't really ride with people, and I haven't really ridden with people much on Zwift, but I really enjoyed that today. So Neil, we have a little kind of like chat, and a few of us get together, and we did some riding on Zwift today, and it was awesome. We all smashed it, and I'm tired now and had a massive lunch because of it. So yeah, I'm really good. I'm kind of obviously the world is a bit of a strange place at the minute, but in my small confinements of my house, in the odd training ride out, it's good. Anyway, how are you, mate? More importantly, I think we've lost Neil again. I think we've lost him.
Right. Hopefully that brings me back, and you can hear me even if you
I
can't
can
see
hear
me.
you.
Excellent. Well, you
Yes,
you
yes.
get a lovely image of
Hello.
me in on the finishing line at Biking Man. Oh man.
Yeah. Which time?
I think I'm gonna give up and I don't know, go and do something
Yeah.
else.
But
Yeah, no, it
it's
was really good.
okay.
It was really good fun this morning. Really enjoyed it. Had
Yeah.
a great ride. Do you know what? I've really been struggling to get back into Zwift,
Yeah.
and I think it's just taken a lot of just riding it, not doing workouts, not doing erg mode stuff, just riding it as if I was riding outside. And I think
Nice.
it's taken me a while to do that and really get back into how this feeling it, riding okay. So yeah, so today was kind of a really good session because it was a good ride. It was you and me and Kerry, and we
Yeah.
had Omar and Rishi for a while as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was good. It was hard. Did
Yeah.
you
It
find
was.
it
It was.
hard?
Yeah, I've been getting quite used to obviously like I get into this habit of riding outdoor a bit and then just getting into a quite a slow, easy pace, not really looking at heart rate. Then you get onto Zwift and it just feels like it's a whole new world of pain. So yeah, I found it really hard. I went in way too strong, but I'm glad. Like it's my legs feel great for it now. I feel really chilled out. I'm gonna probably eat a bit more food, maybe have a couple of gins tonight, and then rest day tomorrow. Rest day tomorrow.
Absolutely, it's all about the rest day.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to having a rest day tomorrow, and then get back to training on Sunday. But yeah, maybe a couple
Good.
of gins, cheeky tonics. Don't know.
Right,
We will
so
see.
isolation life is treating you well.
I want to be back at work. I really miss my clients. Like I can't lie, I miss the gym. I miss my clients. But honestly, it's treating me well. I'm trying to keep busy. Like obviously, told you this morning I bought a sewing machine, so I was doing some sewing at 11 o'clock last night. Bryony was like, "What is wrong with you, Rob?" You know. But I'm trying to make my own frame bag at the minute, just because I want to see if it's possible. So yeah, so I
Are you
started sewing.
sure you're not just trying to make yourself some new clothing? Are you going to try
I
and
need some.
are you trying to make yourself a t-shirt? Are you going to sew Bryony a dress?
Well, I don't know. Like I was thinking about sewing me a dress.
Okay, comments.
No,
Add in the comments who would like to see
marvelous.
Robbie
Ollie,
wearing a dress that he's made himself.
I genuinely would wear a dress I've made myself. But I've always wanted to just, be a bit creative and make a frame bag. And I know it's really difficult, but I've got the time to learn. Like I don't like frame bags, like custom frame bags cost a fortune. And I want to know why. So I thought, you know what, let's see how much actually goes into making one. I'm not a seamstress, but I've never sewed anything before. But it's a good little challenge, and materials cheap, threads cheap. It was like literally no word of a lie, it was 20 quid off Amazon. So we'll see. We'll see. It took me about an hour to thread it last night, which was painful. But yeah, no, it's okay. But you must let me know in the
Whoa, say
chat.
that again. It took you an hour to thread your sewing machine.
Yeah, because what had happened is I'd started sewing without it threaded, and then I didn't read the instructions and didn't really understand how to do it. So it took me ages, and I didn't realize there was a tool to thread the thread through the needle. I was just doing it all like on eye. It was really difficult. Honestly, one of my clients is really like is like a master seamstress. I don't know. So I'm going to ask her when we're out of isolation to come around and show me how to sew. But while I'm in isolation, I'm going to just YouTube video the help. If you go on YouTube, there's barely any videos about how to make a frame bag, and the ones that are on there are just bloody terrible anyway. Like, not gonna lie, I just thought, wow, you're not really explaining this very well, So we shall see. We shall see. Sorry, this is the ball for when Ivy turns up. It needs distracting because she's been asleep, just had a walk. But yeah, no, so it's good. But anyway, in the chat, guys, Sheila on TCR number 6 makes her own bags. Please tell me who this is, because I'd love to talk to people who have made their own bags before. Like I've seen people make ones that are he's back,
Yes, I
but
am
some
back.
like out of bin bags and stuff like that. But I want to make a proper nice waterproof fabric one. So please, if you know anyone that can do this or does this, let me know, because I've done Neil. You're back. You look so pretty.
I am back. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to solo you, but I can't even see you at the moment.
Just
We
see me now.
really are having technical problems today, aren't we? Can everybody else see Robbie?
Okay, we'll see. Let's have a look in the chat. He's back. I'm
He's back,
guessing that's
says
talking to you.
Julie.
I think everyone can see me. I don't know.
Can you see? Can you see the comments,
I can.
Robbie? So,
Yes.
did you see this one? So, David says Sheila on TCR number 6 makes her own bags.
Yeah, David, David, in like, if it be possible, can you send me a message on Instagram with her details? I'd love to actually like chat to someone that does this, just because I think it would just be what an incredible thing to do for your own bike and to go on an adventure with your own made frame bag. So yeah, so I'd literally be really. So David, please drop me a message on the on the gram, and if you're on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere, carry a pigeon. I don't mind. And yeah, because I'd love to talk to someone that does this, because I know I'm having a lot of problems threading a bloody needle talking about making a bag. But I am waiting for my cutting board to turn up tomorrow and my roller knife. So yeah, that'll be good. Anyway, Neil, we need to talk about today's episode.
We do, yes.
So,
yes.
What are we talking about today?
We. I don't know. I think I'm gonna give up and go home and start again because clearly I'm just having a nightmare. Well, right. So today's episode is one that we tried to record about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
6 weeks ago. So we tried to record this a while ago, and we got about halfway through the episode, and then Robbie's dog, Ivy. Is Ivy there?
She's down the stairs asleep. So yes, she will be here, but not right now. No, she chewed
anyway,
through the microphone.
Ivy chewed through the microphone cable, and then halfway through, I just lost Robbie, and he was like, "Yeah, microphone cable been chewed through, gone, no luck." Yeah. And so we've kind of been threatening to do this one for a while since, and finally we're getting around to it. And so, why don't you introduce the details of this one, Robbie, while I try and get my camera working again? So just talk crap for 5 minutes while I restart. This is going to be the Robbie show, basically.
Yeah,
and whilst I'm gone for 5 minutes, Kerry, you can roast me. I'll give you this permission, just this once.
Okay, so today I'm going to be talking to Neil, asking him questions about him being a coach. So Neil, I'm not sure how much you guys know about Neil on the back of this, but he's a very impressive coach. He knows his stuff. He is incredible. And I'm someone that's been cycling for years and years and years. So for me to make improvements takes quite some real smarts. I'm not going to lie to you in saying that. So Neil, I went to him. I've kind of, he's helped me on a few occasions, but I went to him in probably October last year and said, Neil, I need your help, mate. I want to do really well in my racing, and I'm just struggling, mate. I've got no structure, and just, I'm just a busy fool. And I asked him if he could help me with my coaching. So he has done. And I was asking him a million questions. Neil, why is this? Why is that? Why is that? Why is this? Are my calories right on my Garmin? Is this right? Just smashing them out. And he's really logical and understands these things. So I wanted to do an episode, and I wanted to do this for a while, of me just asking him questions about, coaching and, why people should have a coach. And it gives me a bit of a chance to kind of rip him to shreds as well. So as Kerry said in the live comments here, today's episode is Roasting Neil, which I'm really looking forward to. So we're going to talk about his coaching. I don't know what's up with his camera. He's a better coach than he is a camera technician. I'll tell you that now. I'm not sure if he can hear me. So today we're going to be talking about that. So I've got some interesting questions to ask him. As I said, as Neil said before, we've done this episode before. It was a very long time ago where Ivy chewed through the cable. So normally it's me having technical issues, but today it's Neil. So I'm kind of laughing all the way home on this one. Yeah, no, it's good. But anyway, while we're waiting, is there anything you want me to ask Neil? Or maybe there's some stuff that I could answer for you guys about coaching before we started. My experience with Neil has been fantastic. But if you've got any questions about that, it would be really interesting, the things you want me to ask, or maybe that I can answer myself. Please ask away, by all means. I'm not sure if Neil can hear me. I kind of we're sitting there thinking about this the other day and thought, actually, the guy's really massively helped me over the years. Being a coach, he's taught me a lot about what I do. I was actually bike packing a long time before him, but just got a very logical way of thinking. So it's quite interesting for me to see him, actually do all these, help me, someone who's so experienced, to someone who just to come in and go, look, here's what you need to do, and this is going to help, and this is why this, and this is why that. Because I always understood kind of how to train, but just never knew why. and he's the Y, which is really good. Peter, hello. Polarized or threshold sweet spot? I will answer that question. Get Neil to answer that. Let's open a can of worms.
You know, I was just sat there listening to you, Robbie.
Yes, I can. Oh no, you're kidding. Oh, I'll go all red
Yeah.
now, and everyone can see me.
Oh, I
It's
was.
true, but it's
I'm
true.
like, my ears were burning.
But it's very true
I'm
though.
back.
Like, cool.
I'm
So
back,
can I
everybody.
start?
Hopefully, you can see me in glorious high definition now,
High
rather than just a
def.
picture of me.
I can see you in high def.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
hopefully, Robbie's now explained that he's going to ask me a load of really, really awkward questions that I am going to struggle to answer because he's putting me right on the spot.
yeah, that's basically
Basically,
it.
that's about the size of it, isn't it?
But yes,
And
that is true.
I did
That's
see
true.
these questions like 3 months ago or 2 months ago before Ivy chewed the microphone cable, but I've forgotten them all. So I have no idea what he's going
Yeah,
to ask
like
me. And as
okay,
Robbie has
so
probably said, do throw in some questions, and we will try and answer those as we go. Hopefully, we'll try and we're not going to answer those questions in order. We're going to answer them where they seem relevant compared to the questions that Robbie is asking me. So, Peter, yes, your question
yes,
around polarized or threshold sweet spot we'll probably get to, but towards the end. Whereas Kerry's we might get to
straight
a
away.
little bit earlier on.
So let's answer Kerry's.
Right.
Why did you start coaching? Was it to get? Was it because we could be best friends?
No, I mean I was already coaching before I met Robbie. I've not been a coach all my life. I've been an IT and management consultant for 20 years of my working career. That was what took me out to Dubai with my wife Laura. And there's Ivy. And so I moved to Dubai.
Yeah.
I've been cycling all my life. I've been cycling since I was, I think, about 12 or 13 was when I got my first mountain bike, which was back in the late 80s when mountain bikes kind of first came to the UK. And they were really shit. They were fully rigid, terrible brakes. 18 gears was considered a lot, but that was with a triple. So, so I've been cycling all my life and kind of got into serious training about 8 years ago. No, more than 8 years ago. 12 years ago when I did a race called the Grand Raid Cristalp, which is a super hard one-day mountain bike endurance race in the Swiss Alps. So it goes from Verbier to Grimentz. It's 130k off-road, 5,300 meters of climbing. So a full-on, really nasty day on the bike, and that's what got me into taking my training seriously. And because of my background, I've got a degree in physics, so I was always really interested in the science behind how you train and how you get better. And eventually, a few years later, so 2014, I did the Haute Route, the Haute Route Alps, which was Geneva to Nice, it's basically a 7-day alpine stage race, and it's pretty full on. You know, you're talking about an average of about 2,500 to 3,000 meters of climbing every day, raced full gas. So that kind of took my desire to find out more about coaching or more about how you train to the next level. Bought myself a power meter, read some of the classic works on how to train with a power meter. So there's Hunter Allen's book, Training and Racing with a Power Meter. I think Joe Friel did a book around racing with a power meter. Also read Phil Maffetoni's book, the Big Book of Endurance Training. So these are considered like the go-to texts if you want to get a good background in how to train properly. If you're not gonna, obviously you can come to a coach instead. So trained for that. Did pretty good at that for what I was expecting going in, but that kind of got me really into the details of how do you get better, how do you train with a power meter, all that kind of stuff. So then fast forward, I'm in Dubai and working for Hewlett Packard at the time. Got made redundant, which was actually a deliberate move on my part because I wasn't really enjoying it that much, and wanted to do something completely different. So I wanted to step out of corporate life completely, and this kind of gave me the opportunity to do that. And at the time, Laura and I were doing a lot of racing and a lot of riding in Dubai, and we thought there was a real gap in the market for coaching everyday riders, like people who maybe want to do a sportive or a big event in the UAE or in Dubai. We have one called the Coast to Coast, which is a really good 1 day ride, but it's 200 or at least the first year I did it was 204k. So it's quite a long ride, and it can be a little bit intimidating for people. And I thought that anybody can train and do that. So, but they might just need the right help. So yeah, so we set up Turn Cycling. That was kind of June, July of 2017, and we launched around getting people ready for the Coast to Coast, and yeah, had a very successful first year.
Okay.
And that kind of answers the how, but it's not really answered the why. The why, I love coaching. I love helping people enjoy their sport more. I used to be a snowboard instructor, kind of going back even further into my past. And I
Yeah.
used to I loved the skills teaching, loved seeing people improve. And it's kind of similar with coaching people for cycling. There's nothing better than seeing somebody achieve something
Sorry, my
that
dog is so noisy.
is making a lot of noise. There's
I
nothing
know.
better than seeing somebody achieve something that you just makes you go, wow, that's awesome to think that you had a little bit of a part in that. So like even this week, it's just some great rewarding stuff coming from coaching. Quite a few of my people were testing, had some great testing results, especially Adam just smashed an amazing test out a couple of days ago. And then I got a text from Kerry, who I think is watching live, who hates Zwift with a passion, or hated Zwift with a passion. And the next thing I'm getting a screenshot of her going, I've just done 4 hours on Zwift. And it's the little things like that just make you kind of really love what you do. So that kind of answers more about the why.
Cool. So, next thing. So, you've probably gone into this a little bit as well. And obviously, I spoke before while you're away. Why should you have a coach? That is the next question.
Um, I think there's a number of reasons for why you might want to coach. I think, first of all, applying structure to the way you ride leads to a really fast improvement in how your riding is, how strong you are riding, how far you can ride for, how fast you can ride. And there's so much information out there. There's so much stuff online. It can be quite difficult for somebody who doesn't have the time to look into it all and to research it all, to just not know where to start. So I think, first and foremost, having a coach, they bring that structure, they bring that knowledge, they've done that understanding and done that research, so that they can give you a really structured way of doing your riding. I think the second really good reason is you're accountable to somebody. And this is probably the one thing I struggle with the most for myself, because I self-coach. I'm only accountable to me. I'm not accountable to anybody else. But for the people I'm coaching, they're kind of accountable to me for what they're doing. And that brings a much greater level of commitment, of desire to do all of your workouts and things like that. So I think that's a really important one. I think the final thing what's really good with having a coach is they can help you bring structure and a way of working across your whole season. Most people who just ride themselves, if they're getting serious about it, tend to ride too much. They tend to not take enough rest. They don't prioritize the rest. They don't prioritize rest over certain parts of the season. They'll just try and smash themselves consistently throughout the whole year. And actually, you need to get somebody else to take a step back and look at what you're doing and say, well, to reach the heights of what you're capable of, you need to be dipping down and getting a full recovery before you can build up to it. You need to prioritize how much you're sleeping. Be good about what you're eating and how you're eating and things like that. And I think sometimes it just takes somebody else to do that for you.
Yeah, I think one thing that I found working with you is a bad way of putting it, you coaching me, is that I didn't rest enough. That you're right, bang on, that's the first thing. The second thing, I didn't eat enough, like on riding, and a lot of my improvements have come from the structure of what you give. I thought you had to. There's a certain cyclist, and I sent you a screenshot the other day. But I'm not going to mention any names, and he's a coach himself. You know exactly who I'm talking about,
I'm
and
not going to say a word.
riding 35, 40 hours a week and saying to people, this is how you get good. And I'm sitting there thinking, actually, my figures, are probably very similar to his, and I ride 15 hours a week. That's because my structure's better, and that's one thing I
Yeah.
get from you, which
I,
I'm very happy about. But it's just, riding a bike hard is gluttony. It's about riding it at the right time, and having you around, it's really helped me. And if I have a rest day, I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel like, hey, I deserve it because Neil said I can have it.
because
Do you
I
know
say,
what?
I
But it's
tell you
true
so.
though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it
it's
is.
true.
I think, especially with what we do, ultra racing,
Yeah,
I think it's far more important to go into especially a long ultra race, something like TCR. It's far more important to go into that fully rested because it's
mm,
so long. If you go in like at peak condition on day one, you're gonna start breaking down by day seven. If you
yeah.
look at, let's take Fiona, who won TCR last year. She had done 7,000 k before the race. Now a lot of the guys were on the start line having done double that,
Yeah.
and it's about feeling fresh on the start line and being able to just keep that going. Now there were some interesting questions that come up there, which probably fit into that response and some of the
Can,
things that I've said. So
can I talk about
um,
one? Can I talk about one?
go on then. Which one? Well, add the question in. Can
Um,
you add it in?
I can't. Not on my end. No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, there's a few here. So John says
Yes, that's the
you
one I want to talk
mention you
about.
mention yourself coach and thus don't have the same amount of accountability. Have you considered getting someone to coach you? Yes, I have.
I'm happy to
I
do it for
toy
you,
with
Neil.
I toy with this a lot.
Let me coach you for 2 weeks, please.
Well, I would like you to give me some tips on the kind of
Yes, yeah,
PT side of things and the core strength and stuff. But we'll
yeah.
talk about that separately. Yeah, I have thought about getting somebody to coach me because I think you learn an awful lot from. I would learn a lot from having someone coach me, especially if I picked a really experienced coach. I realise that I'm still fairly new to this game and I have a lot to learn, and I'm learning all the time. But I think having a coach would really help me learn. I yeah, probably will do at some point. So yeah, it's a really good question, and it is one that I've thought about. Um, Now, there's a few others that probably fit in here. All right, so I think we've answered that one from Kerry as to why did you decide to take up coaching. Um,
Can
Now,
I?
here's another one I just want to pop in here because I think that does fit with what we're talking about now, and I think it's very relevant in the current situation. So Julie says, what about now? What's your advice re coaching or just ride to keep sane and take the pressure off hitting power time targets? Now, obviously, I'm going to say, everybody, please keep coaching so that I don't kind of go begging on the streets.
You can live at mine with Ivy.
Yeah, I'll come and live at Robbie's.
Yeah.
I think everybody has to. What this is a really good time to reset where you are, to reset what your goals are. People are not going to be racing until the tail end of the summer. So actually, it is a good chance to say, well, what do I enjoy about my cycling? What do I want to get out of it? If I'm going to be racing again, maybe August, September, and then looking ahead to big races next year, then this is a great chance to really take proper long-term structure in what you're doing. So kind of what I'm starting to look at with everybody is just maybe slowing the pace of the pace down a little bit. You don't need to go so hard, so fast, so far because we're not training for a race next month or the month after. So actually now we can slow things down, and the more you the more you do, the more volume you have, the slower you build your fitness, the longer it tends to last. So I think definitely don't worry. It's if you it's not the time to be worried about, oh my God, I failed my intervals, I'm not hitting it hard enough, whatever. You've got time to relax and take it a little bit easier. But I think keeping the structure, keeping the goals, I think keeping the goals is probably the most important thing. Let's look to what do I want to do beyond coronavirus? Because the people who are going to be winning things like Race Around the Netherlands in August, Biking Man Portugal in September, 2 volcanoes, they're going to be the people who now are thinking about how to adapt their training. Whereas the people who just kind of go, oh, you know what, I'm just going to ride around, they'll get to kind of June and go, shit, I'm behind the curve now. Hopefully that answers your question, Julie.
I must admit,
if you've got a comeback on that.
It's made me think about my goals, and it's taken a lot of pressure off, but at the end of the day, it's inevitable I'm going to be going to the Netherlands and racing. There's no yes or no about that, but it's just given me a bit of time to think and to actually, I think a lot of people are going to go back into life, reassessing their own life, saying, actually, I'm going to change my job. Actually, I'm going to do this because I've had the time to stop and think about it now. Like, hey, I'm going to start sewing stuff,
Yeah, look, what we're going through is pretty awful, and there's a lot of.
But you've got to keep busy.
A lot of people are suffering. A lot of people are dying, but the pace of life has changed.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, I'm finding the pace of life has changed. People are a bit more. Everything's a lot slower now, and I think people are going to come out of this and go, actually, whilst I don't like isolation, there are some elements of what we've been doing that of isolation that I've really got on with. And
I know there's this lady that's around my house, and I've become really grown.
That's just coming from Julie saying that's the advice my coach gave. So excellent. I'm glad to see all of us coaches are aligned in the messaging we're giving our clients.
Yeah, there's this lovely lady around my house. She calls herself my girlfriend. I've grown quite fond of her.
Is she sat just around the corner from you, Robbie?
She's not. She's downstairs, actually.
Is she listening?
I don't know. She's probably not. She's not really like this kind of stuff. Like she's not a cyclist, and she probably never will be. So this kind of stuff, she's just like, just completely just not interested.
I thought she might just like the sound of your voice. She
does not like that either. She says I moan a lot, which is fair. I do moan a lot, to be fair. But yeah,
comment. Does Robbie moan a lot?
I moan a lot.
We talked about this last week on the Inca special, didn't we?
Yeah,
your helmet at the wall. Right.
Okay.
Shall
next
we
question.
Carry on with the next question from you? And we will still come into some of these because there's some great questions coming in.
Yeah, there is.
Lindsay, really you've come up with 2 questions there that I definitely want to answer. Stephen, there's a great question from Stephen about metrics in the absence of a power meter. So there's definitely some really good questions here that I do want to answer. So we are going to answer them. I'm just going to do that at the end, and that way you all have to keep watching.
Yes. So I've got a couple of personal questions that I want to ask because there's certain things that I still don't really get. So obviously I'm a trainer myself, but I do on more of the weights side of things. But talk to me about efficiency. So everyone talks about, so in cycling, you get this 23 to 26% efficiency of how good a cyclist car. Can you explain this concept of that some people are 26% efficient, others are 23, and how does that relate? Because this floats around cycling so much.
I'm going to have to go and dig out there are a few scientific papers on this. And I think what triggered this one originally is there was a paper done by Michael Flockhart, who we've both raced with in Corsica, who is a former elite level mountain biker, and now has got a PhD in exercise physiology. He'd been doing some research into this, and there's a few other good articles or good scientific papers on this. So efficiency can mean, I guess broadly, there's 3 different takes on efficiency. There's kind of efficiency of pedaling stroke, which is trying to smooth out how much of the stroke you're applying power for. I'm not going to talk about that one. The second one is efficiency in terms of the metric that you see in Training Peaks. So for those of you listening who use Training Peaks, who aren't coached by me and have been wondering, well, what does that mean? In Training Peaks, efficiency is really used for what I call kind of cardiac efficiency. So how many watts are you doing per heartbeat. So if you're measuring both power and heart rate, then this is a really good metric for measuring your kind of aerobic performance, so how your kind of base endurance physiology is working and how your base endurance performance is working. You know, you can go out and you ride, whether you ride at a consistent heart rate or at a consistent power, over time what you'll see is your power per heartbeat go up. Now that's a very uniquely individual measure. There's no point comparing me to Robbie, because like today on Zwift, we were riding up Alpe Zwift, I was doing 220 watts, Robbie was doing 220 or 230 watts. My heart rate was at 130, Robbie's heart rate was at 170. Now, all that really says is that Robbie naturally has a higher heart rate than me. So there's no point comparing my efficiency to your efficiency and saying, oh, mine's better or yours is better. But for an individual, it's really good because we can track that over time. Anyway, that's efficiency that you see on Training Peaks, and I'm not going to talk any more about that one either. If you want to find out more, then PM me, or we can do this in more detail on another episode. Now, efficiency, what you're talking about is the gross efficiency of the human being in terms of for every joule of work that you do, and just very quick basic physics. Joule of energy is basically work done, and it's the I need to get this right. I should have prepared for this one, shouldn't I?
I didn't send you the questions, so that I said I was going to.
So it's a form of energy. So a joule is energy, and it's work done. And we can measure it by force times distance. So if you apply a force of 1 Newton over 1 meter, then that is 1 joule of work. Joules per second, so how much work you're doing per second, is power output. So if you're doing 10 joules per second, that's a power output of 10 watts. Now, the other way of looking at that is force times distance. So when we're looking at cycling, your power output is the force you're applying through the pedals, or the torque, times the rotational velocity, which is your cadence. So, you know, so power is force times the speed at which you're rotating the pedals. Anyway, so shot off down a little bit of a rabbit warren there, but gross efficiency is for every, for all the work that you're doing, how much of it goes to actually moving your bike forwards mechanically, and how much of it is going into heating your body up. So I might be working at a kilowatt, so doing 1,000 watt, 1,000 watts of work 1,000 watts of work per. Hang on, no, let me get this right. 1,000 joules of work per second. Now my gross efficiency, if that's 25%, that basically means that of those 1,000 watts, 750 watts are heating me up, and 250 watts are driving the bike forwards.
So when you say heating you up, it's just natural body maintenance
Right, so again, let's come back to the example when we were going up the Zwift today. I was doing 220 watts. You could see me on Zoom, and what did I look like?
Beautiful.
No, I look like a hot, sweaty mess, didn't I?
Yeah.
So, and the reason I look like a hot, sweaty mess, it's not the 220 watts that were pushing me up the Alpe Zwift. It was the, probably the 660 watts that was heating me up. So I basically had a 600 watt heater inside me, making me really hot and sweaty. So that's what we talk about when we talk about gross efficiency. Now, the human body, or generally, if you look at elite athletes, there's a fairly narrow range on efficiency of between 23 and 26 or 27%. And interestingly, there's a very inverse relationship with VO2 max. So if you have a very high VO2 max, you tend to have a low efficiency. And vice versa, if you're highly efficient, you tend to have a low VO2 max or lower VO2 max. And kind of, what that means is, or a good example of that is, there was a guy in Norway who's had the highest recorded VO2 max of any athlete. It was something like 97 milliliters per kilogram per minute. basically he could get a lot of oxygen into his body, and but he never made it as a pro cyclist because his efficiency was terrible. And actually, as he trained his VO2 max, his efficiency went down. So actually, he was needing to do taking much more calories to get that power output. He couldn't do the longer rides because efficiency is much better when you're doing long ultra races. So a lot of what we do is a lot of what I'm looking at now is how do you train efficiency. Now, training efficiency of the body, you train at really, really low outputs. So and this is all kind of, there's no precision on this, there's no precise answer, but the view at the moment is by training at like 65% of your max heart rate, that's the point at which you're getting maximum efficiency adaptation. So there we go.
Okay, so next one, you mentioned it earlier, talking about heating the body up and stuff like that. Let's take it back kind of a little bit less complicated. Calories, like I see on my Zwift, so today it's saying to me, I did like 40 minutes before I saw you, average wattage, I don't know, 200, 220, whatever. And it said you burnt 455 calories. And then in the time I was with you and all the other guys, I did another 1,300 calories. So let's say that I've roughly done about 1,700 calories today of exercise. Is that about right? And how do I judge it when I'm going out with my heart rate monitor and I haven't got the power meter on the bike? How many calories should I be eating? Because I'm a big eater, and that's what I love about cycling, how much I can eat. But how gospel are these figures?
Yeah, and I think there's probably two parts to that question. The first part is, are the calorie numbers correct, and how are the calorie numbers calculated? And the second one is, what should you be eating? Because it doesn't matter how much you're burning, your body can still only absorb a certain amount of calories per hour. And there's ways of absorbing more calories by kind of taking on different ranges of sugars, other macronutrients, so that you get your stomach absorbing different bits at different rates. But in general, you can take in like 250 to 350 calories an hour, and generally that's what you should be doing, because when you're riding, you're always burning more than that. And actually, underfueling is big issue, and there's more and more research coming out on how underfueling impacts the way we train. Now, I think that's even more relevant at the moment because we're all doing a lot of indoor training, and what I've seen, or in my experience coaching people, is it's not too difficult to get someone to understand that they need to eat when they're going out on a 4-hour ride outside. But you put them on the turbo trainer and tell them to, and they ride for 4 hours, and they forget to eat. So you're running, and you still do the same, you're doing the same work rate, you're doing the same power, you're burning the same number of calories. So, for me, if I'm doing a 4-hour ride indoors, I'll burn probably 2,200, 2,500 calories. If I've not eaten anything, that's a massive calorie deficit that I've got to replace. And, running... Sorry, I just had to turn my monitor back on. Running that kind of calorie deficit is kind of TCR levels of calorie deficit, and they're not sustainable. Anyone on TCR over 10 days running 3,000 calorie deficit a day loses 5 kilos, and you are in. It's crazy. But you can't sustain it. Now, interesting one, right? Just keeping an eye on the comments. So Peter's come in saying, there's research showing we can get more in per hour, being a hot topic on the TR podcast. Yeah, I think that's definitely... I've definitely seen some of the research around how you can vary, by taking in lots of different things, you can increase how much you can get in. If you just take in one, like if you just take in glucose, then there's a limit to how that can pass through the stomach lining and get into your body. But I will follow up on that and listen to I'm assuming by TR you mean the Trainer Road podcast, Peter.
So my question. So my thoughts are. So I think, is the Zwift calories right? So I'm working on power and heart rate. do you think that's roughly pretty good? And
Yes.
if so, if my heart rate staying at about 130 beats per minute, I'm out doing my 6 hour ride, whatever. I'm on 6 hours on Zwift, haven't got my power meter. How much do I need to fuel on the ride? Let's say 250, 300 calories an hour. But over that day, how much should you allow for every hour? So I normally think to myself, for every hour I'm riding, I should be having 500 calories. Whether 250 of them is on the bike, I always put in my head, look, have an extra 250 when you get home for this hour to make sure I don't lose weight too quickly, or
Yeah.
to make sure I'm not underfueling, because underfueling makes your training like hell. I can see my heart rate go here and just drop the minute I'm getting hungry and thirsty, and that's when I'm sitting there
Yeah, and,
thinking
and, and that's
my
the
body doesn't want to
indication
do
that
this.
your body's running low on glycogen,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that you need to fuel up for that. I think that's a good way of doing it. You're probably burning 600 to 700 calories an hour.
Do you reckon,
So
like, even at
yeah,
even at
yeah, yeah.
130, 140 beats per minute heart rate?
Yeah, because you're going to be running at 200 watts. Knowing Robbie's numbers, 200, 220 is a fairly good endurance pace. So when you're going out and riding around, that's probably close to what you're doing. So yeah, at that rate, you're going to be burning 600 to 700 calories an hour. So as long as you're eating 500 to 600 over the course of the, in total, you're eating that many calories for
To compensate.
Extras to compensate. Half of those might come whilst you're riding, but then half of those have to come when you're home. It's
for the recovery.
It's when you don't eat those at home, or when you just under fuel on the bike, then you're just left with too much of a gap.
Yeah, I'm finding at the minute eating to the point of how much I'm riding seems to keep me really strong on the bike all the time. The minute I sit there thinking, oh, I'm 2,000 down, but don't worry, I'll lose a bit of weight and I might be better and lighter on the bike.
Yeah, well,
and it just doesn't work.
No, it
just
doesn't work like that, because your body's really, really clever. And if you're chronically underfueling your body will just start to lower your metabolism. You will start to lose performance. Your body will start to prioritize fat storage because it thinks, well, shit, clearly there's not enough food around. So, and I don't know when I'm next going to get fed properly. So it goes into survival mode. So you really want to be quite careful about trying to run a small calorie deficit if you're trying to lose weight. If you're not trying to lose weight, then don't run a calorie deficit. And that means we can eat a lot, which is great.
I know, because I'm eating a lot.
We burn loads of calories doing the kind of riding we do.
Yeah, I'm eating loads at the minute. But then again, I'm riding quite a bit as well, whether it be indoor, a bit of time outdoor, whatever, because we're still allowed to do that in the UK just before, I get in trouble for saying that. But
we are allowed. So don't push yourself too hard. Don't push yourself too far away from home, and don't abuse it. And don't ride with people. Stay socially separated. Now, just to quickly answer your question about are those calorie numbers correct? Generally when they're coming from a power meter, the algorithm is pretty simple. How many watts am I doing to drive the bike forwards? Let's assume 25% efficiency, and so you times that up by 4, and you get the answer. That gives you the total number of, or that can very easily, you can work out the total number of kilojoules burned, and it's easy to translate kilojoules into calories because it's a direct relationship. The difficulty comes when you don't have a power meter, when you're going on heart rate. Now, for you know what your calorie burn is based on the rides that you are doing with the power meter, and in general, most of us who train with a power meter a lot know roughly what they're going to burn. So if I'm going out on the bike and I don't have my power meter, I'm on a bike without a power meter, I know how much I'm burning roughly per hour, and I know then how I can roughly take in the right number of calories. So the challenge is if you never work with a power meter, and I think we were originally talking about people coming in going, I've burned 800 calories in half an hour.
Can I just say there's a pillow argument in this? There's a bit of a pillow argument in this.
What's a pillow argument?
A Peloton argument, because there's a lot of people with Pelotons, and I love the fact that they're getting people to exercise and people are getting into cycling, but there's certain things that's just like, do you know what? I had this autumn. I did the 80s ride. It was 25 minutes. That was with the warm up and the cool down, and I did 750 calories. My average wattage was 472. All right, Susan, Susan, who's 52. You know what I mean? The bikes can be so inaccurate, and it's like,
Yeah, but the pellet. I
you
mean,
can't do that. Me flat out,
the
like
peloton
giving
should
my
be
that.
good. I mean, it costs enough.
I know, but me flat out giving everything, like that 55-minute test that you made me do. Yeah, I came after an like the hour I did, I literally, it was just like you burned like 900 calories in that hour, and I was like, it felt like it. It felt like it,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
that
if you're
was
doing like
me
a if you're doing a
full
50-minute
gas.
maximal test, then yeah, you will do.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
full gas for an hour, and honestly, I was destroyed. And there was about 900, 1,000 calories given in that hour, and I just wanted to fall off at the end. I was just like, I'm not doing that ever again. I'm not going to talk to you for a day or two. We'll just be friends once I've recovered. Do you know what I mean?
that's
But
pretty
it's
much how
great.
everybody feels after they do like really long
Oh,
tests.
yeah, that. But I was proud of it anyway. But it was good. But I went away thinking, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of calories. And is that accurate? Because it feels like I've done the work for it, but is it accurate?
Yeah, if like say if you're punching out like a maximal effort over 50 minutes for your power output, yeah, you're probably getting closer to that. You know, close to 800 an hour, 900 an hour. But
Yeah,
like I say, if you're running around doing a few weights and a few bits of cardio in the gym for 40 minutes, and you think, oh, I burnt 800 calories, is highly unlikely. Like
yeah,
800
agreed.
calories in half an hour is something like 450 watts. So yeah, if you're Bradley Wiggins doing the world hour
Yeah,
record, then probably you might be burning a lot.
yeah,
Um,
but
but
that's
we're not
insane.
putting out that kind of power. Right, next
Next
question,
question.
please, Robbie.
Genetics. Did genetics play a good role in this? Because you get all these people. I always got told when I first started cycling, Robbie, you want to be a good cyclist? Yes, I do. It takes years to get cycling legs. And I said, yeah, maybe it does. But I sat there thinking, did genetics play a good role in this? Because I know some people that just jump on a bike and are incredible. And then I know people that have been training for 4 or 5 years and just haven't had like the gains. I used to be a very good runner. Like I say, very good. I was okay. Like I can run 10K in about 40 minutes. So when I jumped on the bike to start cycling, there was already a good base level of fitness there. But do genetics play a big role in cycling, or do you just have to put the time in?
I think it's both, and this is probably I haven't read enough of the research, so this is going to be a semi unqualified answer, but I think
Mm,
the answer really is it is a bit of both.
yeah,
Genetics definitely plays a part. People uh, some people are genetically more predisposed to respond to training load. Let's take my wife's a great example. She trains hard for a month and she kicks my ass. I have to train hard for years to get that good. Um, but a lot of it is time. Like if you look at pro athletes, like pro cyclists, yes, they will all be genetically predisposed to respond well to training load, but also by the time they've hit the top levels of the pro peloton, they've been training hard for probably, since they were 12. So they'll have got
yeah,
8 to 10 years of 30,000 k a year in, certainly towards
yeah,
the latter end of that 8 years. So yes, they've got the genetics, but also they are doing huge volume, and
yeah,
ultimately with the pro cyclists, it's volume. Nothing beats volume, and this is the real difference I think between kind of be if you look at pro cyclists, there was a really good paper the other day that looked at how much time the very top levels spend at different intensities. Because I think if you were to speak to your average amateur weekend warrior, they imagine that the pros are smashing themselves all the time, and
mm,
the reality is the exact opposite. Over the course of a typical season, your average Grand Tour contender will spend 95% of their time zone 2 and below, and
wow,
only 5% above zone 2. Yet
bloody hell,
most weekend most kind of most and our guys especially, because we're particularly bad at that, they're thinking, I've got to be smashing it all the time. If I'm not doing hard workouts every day of the week, then I'm not going to get anywhere. Well, that's not what the pros do. Now, the pros do have the benefit of time. They can ride 30 hours a week. And they do 30 hours a week, and 27 hours of that week, 28 hours of that week will just be noodling around. But then 3 hours will be really, really, really hard. And when you look at a lot of what the pros do, I did a race in Abu Dhabi, and we had like 15 pros there, including like Cavendish, Alan Hansen, and we were either noodling along at what for them was coffee ride pace, or they were absolutely ripping our legs off. There was no in between. It was just like tootle along, now rip your legs off, and it's like, oh my goodness, that hurts. So
yeah. It's quite interesting.
Question on genetics. So yeah, I mean, I think some of it has genetics to play, some of it doesn't. There's I think as we do more around kind of understanding people's genetics and doing like DNA testing and finding out what we might be genetically predisposed to or not, we'll get to know a lot more about this. And this is one of the things I want to do is do a DNA test just to see what it says. But I think one final thing on that question, then we'll go to your next question, is don't use that as an excuse not to train hard, because even if you've got the genetics, you need to train a lot and you need to train hard. It doesn't mean you don't need to train. So for all of us, hardly anyone is going to be reaching their genetic limit at all.
Yeah.
So keep riding, keep training. You just, until you're training a lot, you really got no idea whether you're being bound by your genetics or not. And I think it's highly unlikely that anybody really is getting capped by their genetics.
So what's interesting is this is going to lead into my next question. For some reason, and I get asked a lot about this, so every winter I start doing weights again, and I put size on super quickly. And this is and everyone's just like, oh, you're blessed in the genetic department. And I'm just like, well, actually, I don't believe I am. I just train very hard when I go to do the weights. I train smart, I train hard. Same with the cycling. And it brings me to my next question that I've got to ask you, because I get asked a lot about this, and people are say question, Robbie, do you do anything that you shouldn't be doing? And I say, no, I'd never do anything I shouldn't be doing. But I get questioned a lot because I can grow muscular very quickly. So when it comes to cycling, it's about losing the weight. And then people always just go, oh, you've just got good genetics. And then I say, actually, no, it's a lot of it in my eyes is to do with muscle memory. So do you believe in muscle memory? Do you just think that because someone has cycled in their life to quite a high level before, do you feel as though it's a lot easier to get them back to that level, let's say after 10 years, than someone who has never cycled before, bringing them up to that level? Is muscle memory a thing?
So this is going to be an intuitive response rather than this one is based in hard fact. I can't point to a scientific paper on this. I mean, there might be one out there. I will go and have a look. But absolutely. I think you do. It's kind of similar to the nothing beats volume. When you ride a lot year on year, it's easier to get back to fitness every year. Like when you come out of your kind of 1 month of downtime or whatever, which everybody should be having every year, it's easier to get back to a level. I think, whether muscle memory is the right word or not, I don't know.
But do you believe, like, someone who, just say I took a 10-year break, just said, look, I'm gonna take 10 years out, and then let's use John. I'm using a fictional person called John right now. Let's say John has never cycled before, and then we both start training together. Am I going to get to a fitter point quicker than him?
Who knows? I mean, have you done enough over the last kind of 10 years? I don't know.
Just say I've done nothing.
Does John respond well? No, like prior to that, had you done it? Who knows? I can't.
I get asked this question because I just say, look, I'm not genetically blessed. I just train hard, and I've done this process quite a few times, and I feel in my head there's something to be said for muscle memory, that my body understands the process of getting fitter a lot quicker. But I don't know if that's true or not. I don't. There's
No, I
not
think it
really
does.
much
I think it
about
does,
it
but
that
but
says.
but whether I could take you having had a break for 10 years and whether you would be better than John who's never trained before, there's so many other variables
Yeah,
you couldn't
yeah,
you
that
couldn't
is.
really answer that question.
But it's an
But
interesting question to ask because so many people use it as an excuse. Oh, yeah, he's just got good muscle memory, and I'm like,
oh, that's the
really?
thing. Never use it. Never. There's no excuses. You just got to ride your bike. Keep riding your
Yeah,
bike.
yeah,
Don't look at somebody else and go, well, he's just lucky. No, this is about you, not about them.
yeah,
You
yeah.
ride your
Like,
bike more, and you will get faster, or be able
yeah,
to ride longer,
yeah,
or
yeah.
further.
Like, I believe that I've busted my ass over the years. Hence, that I feel quite fit at the minute, but it's taken a long time to get there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Okay,
it does.
so
It does.
yeah,
Next question.
okay, so
Hang on,
I
before
should.
we want to. Here is a really interesting one that came in from John. Um, yes. So John says there's a theory on muscle memory for someone who was doping. After this person cleans up, he's able to adapt to the fitness quicker because the body had memory of that level of performance. Well, I think again the kind of the use of wording is not quite correct. I don't think it's that the body has some memory. It's just that the physiological pathways in the body are more adapted. And yes, absolutely. Someone who's doped for 10 years and then stops doping, they've still got such a massive advantage from having trained at that higher level because of I'm assuming because of the oxygen vector doping. So yes, I think that's true, and I think that is a theory that's got quite a lot of ground to it. Right, sorry, next question.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna do an Ask Robbie one next. I feel
yeah,
like
we
I need to
definitely have
I need
to.
to put him on the spot. Right, go on then, shoot.
So one thing that I notice so many people do is they build in their workloads terribly, and I'm prime example of this. Before I started, being coached by you, you see these people that just go, yeah, I'm just going out to do a 2 hour ride, 3 hour ride, then they jump into an ultra race. And then, some people do it well. But ideally, what's the perfect way of building up your workload to be ready for an ultra race? Like, what's the theory? What do you believe is the best way? Just say I'm racing in the Netherlands. Let's say if I was racing the 1st of May like I was meant to, what do I slowly build an hour or two in each week, or do I just go half the amount, all the amount? What's your thoughts on building in workload?
Well, so training or getting your body to go faster and further and longer is all about you apply a load, your body then recovers from that load better able to repeat it, and you therefore apply load progressively.
Yeah,
If you jump straight in and start smashing yourself, then you will put yourself into a really, really big hole. You might eventually come out, but if you keep yourself just smashing yourself all the time, then you're not applying any level of progressive load. Um, Really, what you want to do is start small and work up. And I always like to try and get a really progressive glide path on volume, on intensity, um, so that you get to the start line physiologically ready to do the race, but then also that you work on all of the other things that get you ready to do an ultra race, because an ultra race is quite different in that it's not purely physiological. There are so many other factors that go into winning an ultra race. If it was purely physiological, Fiona would not have won the TCR, because it's
yeah,
accepted that women have a 10% performance detriment compared to men. That's been proven. If you look at all of the world records across any particular distance that's not an ultra distance, where it's purely physiological, women's records are 10% lower than men. So there is clearly more to it than just how fast you are. And there's so much of it is about efficiency. It's about playing a really, really strong pacing game. It's being efficient on the bike, efficient in the shops. It's about being able to get by on little sleep. There's so much more that goes into it than just can I be strong. But from the physiological point of view, what we tend to do is just ramp up towards where you gain your maximal aerobic capacity. So sorry, I'm just getting distracted by comments coming in as I'm trying to talk. I shouldn't try and multitask.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So for me, it's around building. First and foremost, you've got to be able to ride along, because that is the ultimate goal of an ultra race, is to be able to ride as long as you can. It's not about speed; it's about riding distance. And so to do that, we look at how do we increase your aerobic capacity up. How do we build to rides that maximize your aerobic capacity? And that's not the same as doing the same distance, because when you go over a certain amount of time, then you're not doing anything more to improve your aerobic capacity, you're just causing damage. But then also you want to layer in the intensity as well, because you want to be getting faster as you're riding. Having said that, riding faster is not the main goal.
It helps.
The faster your underlying endurance pace is, your underlying or that pace at ultra race is, the further you will go in a given time frame. And to do that, you want to be lifting your threshold. You want to be lifting, your higher aerobic power outputs. No point going sprinting, because that doesn't really help. But you want to do work to maximise your top end aerobic capability. And again, that's about progression. It's about progressing through intensity, but also progressing duration as well. Really, when you're looking at improving your capability around threshold, you can increase the power or you can increase the duration. And increasing duration, for me, is always going to give better benefits than just trying to ramp up power. So start early, build things progressively, and you take a steady glide path all the way up to about 2 weeks before race day. And then when you get to 2 weeks before race day, you can almost not do anything. Don't not do anything, but that's when you really want to be going into the race feeling fresh. If you're trying to bust out long rides, hard rides, 3 days before your race, then you're going to be tired on the start line. And with an ultra race, if you've got the time, you're going to be doing maybe, if you can, 20-hour weeks, like in the 4 weeks beforehand. If you're doing 20, 25-hour weeks, which is what I was doing in the Alps in the run up to TCR, I knew that I needed 2 weeks of recovery to really hardly do anything. And you know what? I was just getting faster and faster and faster as I went through that recovery.
Cool. Perfect. So, next question. 2 very personal questions. What's it like training me?
You're a blooming nightmare, because you never upload any of your rides. Like, I look on Training Peaks and it's just literally, it's red.
But
Everything is red.
I do them. Like, I do. Okay. And on top of that, so it has been it's been spoke about a lot today. And it's been spoke about a lot in my head. When are me and you going to race up Alpe Zwift?
Are we going to race up Alpe Zwift?
We do need to. I think
an isolation race.
Give the people what they want.
Maybe we could do it. Maybe we could do it as a. Maybe we could do it as a.
What's the kilo race up there?
Right, hang on a second. I'm just going to bring this in. Share screen.
I think we should.
Share. Right, there we go.
Because we're very evenly matched.
That is Robbie from March this year.
Mate.
He was actually riding. But he was uploading nothing to Training Peaks. So I'm like going, Robbie, you riding? What's wrong, mate? You okay? And
no, I'm really bad.
What is it like coaching Robbie? It's just hard work. It's hard work, Robbie.
But
should we do it right? Well, answer in the comments or in the comments down below, whichever one you're looking at. If you're watching this live, let us know immediately. If you're watching this after the show, then let us know. Should Robbie and I have a race up Alpe Zwift? And I think we're going to organise more events on Zwift. So part of this is back to Julie's question. Part of what I'm trying to do as a coach and as a coaching company is just provide more ways of interacting socially everybody's riding at home on Zwift. How do I bring people together? So we're doing daily turn cycling rides. So every day, 5 days a week, we're doing a turn cycling ride. Today we went up the Zwift. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. We're doing Zoom so that we can all talk to each other as well.
That's the best thing ever.
And see, my sweaty hot face, because my efficiency means I've got a little 750 watt heater inside me.
Yeah.
But then we're going to do once a week. We're going to do more of an open session for anybody who wants to join. Come and join us. So maybe we should do one of these next week. We'll do like a Saturday turn cycling, riding with Robbie, Niel and Robbie Ultra Cycling Show, Alp the Zwift session. Yeah. The problem is if we do it as a group ride and you have don't drop turned on, then everybody goes at the same pace.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do think we are due a race, though. I do think that, judging, I think we're very close, watts per kilo, and I think that we would have a lot of fun chasing each other up, and we should do it live.
Okay, so maybe I'll do it I'll do it not as a no drop. We'll do it as a ride with drop.
First one to the top wins,
and then we can all race up. So who's in for that? Let us know there or there. Yeah. Let us know. Are you in for that? Right. Can we go through some of these questions that are online here? Because
yes, I was about to say I've asked the majority of things that I wanted to. But there was a few really cool questions that came up, and I think we need to just jump back to Lindsay because that was quite a while ago, and I'm hoping she's still listening.
Rambling on a lot. Okay, well we're going to take these now in chronological order, if we can answer them.
Polarized or sweet spot threshold.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure what that means.
So the polarised approach really is saying we should do 80% of our work at 75% or lower, and then 20% of our work at kind of like 100% threshold and higher. So actually doing lots of really, really maximal efforts. Doing lots of sweet spot threshold is around, you do a lot of work around 90-95% of threshold.
That sounds like awful.
So I think my take on this is a lot of it does depend on the individual, and a lot of it depends on the goal that you're working towards. The thing with research is you could find a paper that would look favourably on either of those approaches. The problem is that the papers tend to be very, very narrowly focused on saying, is this kind of training better than this kind of training? Over a very short period of time, and actually my take on this is we want to be doing probably a blend of kind of trainings or approaches towards training over a large distance of time. So when we're talking about 5 or 6 months getting ready for an ultra race, then we'll be doing a lot of base endurance work, because ultimately that's what gives you the base engine to race an ultra long. You'll be doing progressive sweet spot work and threshold work to lift and push. You'd be doing some more VO2 max work at a certain point where it would be fitting more of a polarized model to really give that a kick, and you'd be blending all different kinds of it. That's at least that is my approach. I think there's not a one size fits all. There's a to quote somebody who's I can't remember who this was, but it was a podcast I was listening a lot to that was around mindset. One size fits one. So what works for an individual? So yes, both work. Both people respond to them differently. So you have to try, see the result, see the adaptation, adapt, and then do it again. Right. Next question.
Can I just want to just quickly get this one from John. When did you start being coached by Niel? So I've done probably two good stints of coaching with you, and each one massive improvements, really, like watts per kilo wise. So I'm just going to answer that real quickly. Who is your worst client, past and present?
I'm not going to answer that one. There is no worst client. They're all amazing, and I love working with all of my clients because every single client gives me a different challenge.
And Robbie especially, he's my favourite.
Except that Robbie, he's
Stephen.
And I think just on that, and like no coach knows everything. If a coach thinks they know everything, then that's
Agreed.
probably the time to run away, because
Very shit coach.
and that's the same whatever you do in life. The minute you think you know everything is the minute you should just stop, because we're always learning, and everybody I work with, it's a chance to learn and a chance to kind of, I try things. Sometimes things don't work. Sometimes people don't respond to certain parts of training or certain physiological loads, and so you have to kind of come back to square one and rethink through the problems. Like one of the ones we're going through at the moment is some people hate going on the turbo trainer. So how do we get around that? Some people have significantly lower power outputs when they're on a turbo trainer, and I'm one of those people. I have a lower power output on the turbo trainer. How do we work around that? It can be quite. A lot of that is working on the mindset side of things. If you're going out and you're doing threshold intervals outside at say 280 watts and not struggling at all, and then you get on the turbo trainer and you're struggling to do intervals at 230 watts, it can be quite demoralizing. Now, from an adaptation point of view, then it's not as much of a problem as people might think, but you've got to keep people focusing positively on it. And you've also then got to reset and go, well, we're going to need to work back up from the ground again. So yeah, everything is a new challenge, which is great, which I love, and that's why I love coaching.
Stephen Haynes, in absence of a power meter, what metrics would you measure? Can I take a guess that heart rate would be a very big one of them?
Yeah, heart rate is a really good measure of input. Power is a really good measure of output. So heart rate is a good measure of what your body is trying to do. And then power is a good measure of what it's actually doing. For me, having them both in combination is definitely the best way. A lot of training for ultra races. Look, you can do an awful lot of training for ultra races purely on heart rate, because so much of it is long distance. It's fairly low. Actually, there's a good argument to say you should do it at based on perceived exertion. So you can use perceived exertion and then actually see the heart rate response, because the body's actually pretty good at knowing how hard it can push at any given time. I'll try and put in a link. There's a really good podcast called the Empirical Cycling Podcast, and they went into this in depth, looking at cardiac drift and what causes cardiac drift. So I'll put a link to that one in and go and have a listen to that one, because it's in depth. It's quite scientific, but it's good. Or I don't like to say to people, you've got to have a power meter to train. Some coaches will say, I won't train you without a power meter. I don't like to do that, because I think they are expensive. They're getting a lot cheaper, but they are expensive. And there is a lot you can do on heart rate. Is there more we can do with power? Yeah, there is definitely. You can get a lot more data, a lot more metrics. So that's good for me to do the analysis on. It's a really, really good pacing tool, especially in the first couple of days of an ultra race. Once you get beyond the first couple of days, you're pretty much what you can do. But in the first couple of days, it helps keep you under control, because people often go off far too hard. And it's really good for doing intervals, because especially, anything under kind of 20 minutes, your heart rate response is slow. You can do threshold sweet spot intervals by heart rate. Anything lower than that, your heart rate responds too slow. So it's hard to say, here's a heart rate target for some VO2 max workouts, because by the time your heart's up to the heart rate is up to the target, then you're at the end of the interval. So yeah, it's really difficult. So hopefully that answers your question, Stephen. Right, Robbie, do you want to go to the next question?
What question are you looking at? Oh, Fire, you want me to ask you the questions, so I'm just looking.
No, I'm saying I was just looking down to see if anyone had commented on what the things that we've done. So I think this one probably comes in. I'm just going to skip to the end. Peter's asked, what does cardiac drift look like over an ultra race? Ever gone through a race file looking at this metric? Well, right. So cardiac drift within the context of a kind of 4 to 6 hour ride, let's say, or even a 2 hour ride. And do go and listen to the podcast from the Empirical Cycling guys. It's down to depleting muscle glycogen, and now obviously conditioning really, really helps. The more conditioned you are, the bigger your aerobic capability, then the less cardiac drift you're going to see. But then also a lot of it is down to fueling. As you basically your muscle, a muscle is made up of bundles of fibers, and your body can activate, or your motor control can activate a bundle or not. It can't activate part of a bundle. And so when we start off, when we're riding fairly low intensity, we can fire the small bundles. But as that muscle bundle depletes its glycogen, then you have to engage bigger and bigger muscle groups, which require bigger blood flow, which is why you get cardiac drift. And that's a really easy one to go and test out, is go and do like a 4-hour ride at kind of top end endurance, so 70 to 75% of threshold, but eat all the time, eat regularly, consume 300 calories an hour, 350 calories an hour, eat every 15 minutes. I did that around Al Qudra in Dubai, and I had negative cardiac drift over 4 hours. It was amazing, and most of that I think was down to the food. Now,
How long?
To directly answer your question, Peter, in the context of an ultra race, what you see is, and I'll get this the wrong way around, it's either parasympathetic or sympathetic response, because you're doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of low intensity miles over time. Your heart rate loses the ability to push as hard, so your heart rate just drops considerably. Like if I look at the last 4 days of TCR last year, my average heart rate was 97.
So
whereas at the first kind of 2 days it was probably 120. So
with,
that's cardiac drift, or kind of drift, but that's caused by a different thing that's happening.
so
But yeah, last 4 days of TCR, cardiac drift was, or my heart rate was really low. It was 97, and it wouldn't move. Stayed there.
Mark Beaumont had the same thing in his book when he was going around the world. I remember reading about that.
Yeah,
He said he couldn't get his heart rate up.
Same for everybody. So, and it kind of happens over the course of a Grand Tour as well. So if you're looking at Grand Tour races, it's why they try to go on power output for their hard efforts at the end of rides, rather than looking at heart rate, because after kind of 2 weeks of Grand Tour, then their heart rate is going to be 10, 15 beats lower than it would be otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, we have a visitor, guys. We have a visitor.
Oh.
Ivy, say hello. She's not going to chew this one. Okay, hey, what are you doing? Okay, so recovery time after a race.
I went to Lindsay's first question, which was, how easy is it to juggle long road and MTB racing and training? Focus on one to maximise performance. MTB racing. I don't actually coach any pure mountain bike racers, but mountain bike racing is really hard, because it's really, you're either going fully maximal aerobic or anaerobic, and then downhill. It's a lot more up, down, hard, slow, hard, slow, hard, slow, hard, slow. So, training for that is really difficult, and it puts much more demands on your body in terms of core strength and stability, versus an ultra race where really we're training to sit at 50% of FTP for like 14 hours on end. Such a different kind of objective. I think you probably could combine it. Generally, the biggest challenge is when somebody comes to you and they say, I want to do this, and really what this is absolutely everything. They go, I want to do this race, which is a sprint race, and this race, which is a hilly race, and then when that finishes a month later, I'm going to go and do an ultra race. That's kind of, often you say, what do you really want to do? What do you really want to excel at? Like, if you're training to really excel at an ultra race, you'll be pretty good at mountain biking. You're not maybe going to be as good as you could be because your focus is on the ultra race, but you'll be pretty good at the mountain biking side of things. So yeah, there's got to be a certain level of focus in one discipline. I think ultimately training to do an ultra race will probably get you pretty good at a lot of other things, whereas training to do a 2-hour mountain bike race will probably not give you the necessary things to go and do an ultra race. If that makes sense. Again, I can't point to any science on that one. That's kind of just intuition and experience, I would say. We've answered Julie questions. How long is the average
A
safe time to recover from one race to allow going into another race fully prepared?
few weeks.
Don't think there's. I mean, this is what's great about ultra racing. I don't think there's no one answer yet, and we're still kind of early in the days of ultra racing.
Yeah.
Well, compared to like road racing, road racing we've been doing for 120 years, probably a little bit longer. When was the first bike race? I don't know, 1890 something. Someone will answer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it depends on the individual. It depends on how many of these you've done. Like my first race, I could not move for like 2 weeks, and I did a race.
I remember your legs.
Yeah, I had elephant legs. I had cankles. I had legs like elephant's trunks. They were awful.
They were crazy, weren't they?
My undercarriage had fallen apart. I had massive saddle sores. I had knee pain, and literally I needed 4 weeks. I think I got back on the bike after 3 weeks and raced 2 months later. But then this year I did Amman, and then I did Rwanda. So I did Rwanda, and then I did Amman, and I had 2.5 weeks off. And in hindsight, that wasn't enough. I think I would have liked 4 weeks, mainly to allow more kind of joint recovery. Like your joints take a battering on an ultra race. Yeah. I needed more time for those to recover, and I needed more time to more sleep. I don't think I'd caught up on enough sleep. So I was really tired after the first 24 hours in Amman. I was really tired. I had to stop and have a quick nap.
So if I am racing 1,500 kilometers, riding average 18-20 hours a day, what amount of hours a week should I be doing the month before the race? Is that an individual thing again, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's individual, and it's also what your situation is. I mean, I was doing probably 20-hour weeks in the run-up to TCR. In kind of like 4 weeks before the race, 3 weeks before the race, and then in the last 2 weeks before the race, I was literally doing hardly anything. I was probably doing 5 hours a week if I was lucky. But could you do it on 15 hours a week? Yeah. Could you do it on 10? I'm sure people do, and you could try and make the most of your 10 hours a week. I think that the challenge is you want to be adapting yourself to long days, and that's back-to-back long rides over the weekend. Now that doesn't mean you need to go out and do 2 12-hour rides at the weekend, but you want to be doing enough of that kind of back-to-back long distance riding, so 4, 5, 6 hours in terms of the physiological preparation.
If you could only do one type of training session to train for your ultras, what would it be?
Oh, this one's easy. 3 hours endurance.
Nice action. I love 3 hour rides.
3 hours at 70%, 75% FTP. It's such an awesome workout. You do that 5 times a week, you're going to be really good.
But my issue is I think an hour after you've done an ultra and some really big days, an hour just feels like hard effort because you've actually got to get ready. You get on your bike or you get on your trainer. You train for an hour. And you feel like it's just an hour. But 6 hours, you're like, I really don't want to do 6 hours someday, especially if it's on a turbo. But 3 hours is that perfect place in between, where I'm just like, I can live with that.
I'm trying to work up to doing 3 hours. I've done 2.5 hours on a turbo. I've never done more than 2.5 hours.
I did 24 hours on a spin bike once, or roughly around that. That sucked. Right. It wasn't
Next
very
question.
nice.
Peter says, Peter says this isn't training related, but if you don't mind, towards the end, could you go through your lighting setups? Now, I'll do this very, very quickly because I think this is more going down kit and gear setups, which I think we'll probably cover in a separate show. I use a Exposure Diablo Mark 11 with an extra battery pack on the front. And I'm using a tail fin. I just use a cat eye pannier,
nice.
battery powered one at the back, and then backed up with a cheapo one I got off eBay off Amazon for £4.
Did you still using that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've still got mine. It's
the best light because it's got a reflector in it.
I know.
Robbie, what do you do?
There's a video on my YouTube all about the cat eye system I use with the battery backups. So if you pop to my YouTube channel, that'll be riding with Robbie, you'll see it all there. But it is, I don't want to go into it because if not, I'll be talking for 20 minutes about it. But yeah, there's on my YouTube, my one, there's actually a really good video that I put together all about it. So yeah, what else we got?
Well, this is not really a question. This is Julie showing that she clearly knows a lot more than me about muscle memory.
I know, I was just, I
The
was
motor
reading
endplates
that.
respond to stimulus that they recognise, and if you have muscles that have been effective and well trained, they will know what to do in simple language.
Perfect.
Physiological stuff is bigger words and more complicated. That sounds like most things.
Yeah. Cool.
I think we've made it to the end of the show.
Yeah, Kerry, you are getting dragged up out Zwift
No,
again.
next time I'm not going to drag you up, Kerry. You got an easy ride today.
Oh, that was not an easy ride. Do you know what? I
Awful.
sat in the bath and had a little cry after. I was like, I
Did
can't
you?
do this anymore.
I got off the bike. I had to swim off the bike. There was that much sweat on the floor.
I know, God,
Literally.
like, just if I wasn't riding, I was product placement as well. But we'll go into that another time. Yeah. So, thank you for listening, everyone. And sorry we had a few technical difficulties at the start.
Yeah, all my fault.
But luckily, it wasn't from me this time because it's normally 98% of the time from me.
Robbie's been pretty good, except Robbie still hasn't worked out how to hold his phone in landscape mode.
Well, is that any better?
Yes,
is it better?
A little bit.
Okay.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
The problem is, I'll tell you why, if anybody's made it this far into the show, and we still have 10 people listening.
Really?
Yeah, no, really.
Wow.
It's not just you and me.
These are ultra racers.
They're ultra something.
Ultra
You cannot get a webcam anywhere. They have all sold out. So, we went on Amazon because 2 weeks ago we did this and Robbie's video was shit. There's no other word to describe it.
Yeah,
and we immediately tried to buy him a webcam and we couldn't buy one anywhere.
So we're using this, but if everyone can see me okay today, I'm actually doing this on my iPhone, and it's actually coming out on my end. It looks really good. There's no lag, so I'm quite happy. You know what I mean?
I would just like Robbie, and again, answering the comments below, I would just like Robbie to take this a little bit more professionally. I mean, look at him. Is he there? No, he's that side. He's there. I've been pointing the wrong way the whole time, but look at him. Look at him. There we go.
I am professional.
Look, he's there. He's lying around on the sofa, phone up in the air. Hello, everybody.
I'm on the sofa, I'm on the bed.
He's on his bed. It's even worse. He's asleep.
No, it's like, but this is my chi. This is how chilled I am about this.
Good, right. And I'm going to leave you with a couple of words of thanks. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stephen, for listening. Thank you, Greg. We really appreciate your support. We really enjoyed doing these. And let us know, do you prefer these as the live YouTube ones that you can interact with, or do you prefer the podcast? And and thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for putting me on the spot with some challenging questions.
And before you go, honestly, like, I'm going to say this on behalf of Niel, who's that side. Subscribe to the channel. Get on it. Share it. Just chuck us a share on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And like I really want to get, we want the subscribers to be up so he can get more people watching this. And it's just such good information. So many coaches wouldn't give you this and wouldn't give you all these in-depth answers. They would just be like, oh no, you've got to pay me for this. Niel is giving, we give so much good information free. So if you could give us a share, give Niel's, YouTube a share, a like, just, tell some friends about it. That would mean the world to me. And I'm sure that would mean a lot to Neil. Please do that.
I have 550 subscribers and I need to get to 1,000 because then I can do all of the live race coverage through YouTube Live, which is then easier for people to follow afterwards. And then I'm going to turn into a YouTube millionaire.
Yeah, and I'm going to...
That's how I'm going to fight off the apocalypse.
And I'm going to be in his draft.
Like you were all day going up, like Kerry was all the way up Zwift.
Yeah,
up out Zwift.
That'll be me. I'll be your PA.
No drafting next time, Kerry. And guys, go and wash your hands.
Yes, cool. Right. See you later, guys.
Right. I'm gonna stop. We'll stop talking crap now.
Bye.
Bye.